Well, I think I must get the prize for the longest title, so I'm not going to read that out. But basically, as the film said, it's an extension program around water and how it's used both in the pig and poultry industries, because both those industries have similar requirements. Just to set the scene, pig and poultry industry, the gross value of production in WA is about 650 million, and across Australia it's about 9.5 billion. So, and there's a lot of value adding that goes on in those industries. So I'm going to talk about water requirements for pigs, what do we know about water quality, some of the challenges the industries are facing, are going to face, some of the opportunities to support current and future requirements, and then extension toolkit, which is a major part of the project and what we intend to do there, and then a take-home message. So water is often said in the pig industry, at least, that the forgotten nutrient. We know a lot about the amino acid requirements of a growing pig of different stages, the minerals and vitamin requirements, the energy requirements. We can tell you all that, but we have no idea what goes in the water. I mean, the assumption is that the water quality is good. So pigs and poultry drink about 2 to 3 times more water than they eat. So if they eat 1 kilo a day, they're going to drink about 2 to 3 litres a day. If the temperature goes up, they'll could double that, so it could be 4 litres a day. So in terms of what we do know, there are guidelines for chemical and microbiological concentrations. But we know about them, but we forget about them. We never take those into account because they're almost textbook figures. It's also the combined nutrients. So we add salt to pig diets, for example, and yet we know that some of the water that those pigs are drinking has got salt in it. So you say, well, why the hell we take the salt out of the diet? Well, if you're manufacturing feed and you want a diet with or without salt, there's a cost involved in that, and there's logistical issues, because there aren't that many diets, even though there's all this secrecy around the feed industry. There's only probably a few different diets that most of them pigs are fed. So there's a logistical and a cost issue with taking small things like salt out of a diet. Delivery of medications is an important, so a lot of medications, a lot of additives are delivered in water. Because pigs will keep drinking water, they might go off their feed, but they'll tend to drink. So if you're going to get medication into a pig, you generally put it in the water. But this is a bit like the broadacre exercise here in terms of water quality being really important, because if it's not, then those medications may not work as well. Same as with spraying herbicides. Water quality for spraying is really important. Cleaning and disinfection is really important. And you can say, well, why don't we just recycle a lot of the water out of a piggery? Well, recycling it and putting that dirty water back through a piggery is probably not a good biological or health practice. The other things that I didn't mention on here is temperature control. So while there are some pigs that in free range have their own bath, most of our pigs now are held in intensive sheds with evaporative cooling. To keep them cool. So that, again, requires a lot of water, but very effective in terms of keeping them cool. So water quality is really important because it affects performance. So it's typical that you get a drop of 3 to 5% in growth rate if pigs are drinking water that's on a high level of salt. And you'd never pick that up, in a performance until you get to the end of the 6 months when pigs are due to go to slaughter, and suddenly you realise that they're a week or so behind. So salinity is a key component of water quality. So there are guidelines on water, but it's old data. And as I said, it's a forgotten nutrient. We just focus on the really important things that cost money, is energy and amino acids. The other thing we don't do is monitor salinity very well in our water. And ideally, it would be good to have simple tests automatically to monitor your water quality as it goes, because we know that it changes during the year, depending on where you are. And there are different water treatment options. Obviously, desal is one, but of course, it's what's the cost, what's the return, and as I say, at the moment, most people probably may be using those that are using water that's not of good quality probably don't realise the impact that it's actually having on their productivity. The other thing is that our pigs have changed and our poultry has changed. So in terms of their growth rate, their feed conversion, they're a completely different genotype under different management systems than they were, and health status, than they were 10, 20 years ago. So things have changed, and so water probably is becoming more important. So the challenges of a drying climate, it's becoming hotter, and pigs and poultry do not like hot conditions. So also demand for poultry and pork is going to increase. The industries are growing, and they will continue to grow because of the supply of feed grains in Western Australia, space, high health status, and the proximity to markets in Asia. So the demand for water for the pig and poultry industry is going to continue to increase. And water security then becomes an important issue because it costs a lot of money to build an intensive pig or poultry facility. And if you don't have security over the amount of water that you need in the long term, then that becomes a very high risk operation. So there are a number of challenges. And the other one there is around water temperature. Water temperature will drop consumption of water of a pig, and then they'll stop eating. So water has to be cool. So what are some of the water issues and solutions? So we know that the impact of water quality has both on poultry and pigs. So this project started off actually by an Agricultural Produce Commission project that was funded from the Pork Producers Committee, and it looked at testing water quality of a number of piggeries throughout the southwest over the year. And it's, in summary, basically a number of those herds or piggeries were using water of marginal quality, and it was variable. So sometimes the year it was good, sometimes it wasn't. And yet the producers had no idea, they weren't testing. So that's where it started from, and we've brought the poultry industry in because pigs and poultry have very similar requirements. So there are a number of solutions available, but adoption is low. And again, it comes down to cost, the knowledge, and how, if we're going to invest money, we need to know what the return's going to be. So what are the opportunities? Well, there are water delivery systems, and so, you know, in the old days you'd have a trough. Now we have nipple drinkers to reduce wastage. But in saying that, I was up on the farm on the weekend. My brother and that went away for a wedding, and I went and looked after the pigs for the weekend. God, the flies are... it's not just the piggery, it's the flies in the country. But they all had troughs. And while it meant going and cleaning the troughs every day, if there was a break in the water for any reason, unfortunately there wasn't, there was a supply of water there. If you've got nipple drinkers, there's no backup supply unless you've got a tank up above, or whatever. Anyway, nothing happened. Obviously, there's opportunities to reduce wastage, and producers are very aware of that. There's systems to clean water, so you can have filtration systems, for example. But the question there is, you know, do I need this? And again, it's hard to measure the improvement in performance you might get if you install a filtration system because someone came along with a U-boot bit of equipment. Flushing water lines is really important to not only keep them clean, but to keep the flow rate going well. And then measuring and adjusting water quality automatically. So there is technology available that I think industry needs to be exposed to. So what are we doing? We've got an extension toolkit, and so we've produced 3 fact sheets. These are the titles: water requirements, water issues and solutions, and providing water and measuring quality. So the fact sheet is very much a specific information sheet for producers. We then also have what we're calling extension notes. And again, the topics are pretty similar, but the extension note has got published information there. So it's for that producer who says, oh, I don't believe you. Well, here you are. Here's where the data's come from. Here's the supporting information. And so we have a number of seminars locked in for April next year in the southwest, so in Albany, Narrogin, Gingin and Mandurah. where we're going to release those extension notes or education notes and farm notes. Well, that's an old term. So my take-home message is demand for water for the pig and poultry industry is going to increase. So I'm not sure where it's going to come from, but certainly there has to be a greater focus on quality and supply. And really, the summary there is information on water quality has really been lacking. Thanks, Dara.
Thank you, Bruce.